Hey guys, welcome back to Ranger Survival and Fieldcraft. I'm Andrew. Now what I have for you today is a video based off a recommendation from you guys in the comments section on military survival everyday carry. I was asked, what do I carry every day that I can't leave the house without having on me to affect survival? So what I thought I'd do is show you the variety of items I have carried for my military survival everyday carry. Let's go. A ranger instructor gave me a good piece of advice a long time ago, and that was always have a knife, a way to start fire, and a snack in your pocket. We live out of our rucksack, we fight off our rack, and we survive with what's in our pockets. That piece of advice has always stuck with me. A knife, a way to start fire, and some sort of snack, and maybe a little bit of cordage are the main things that are going to be in my pockets for survival. Besides those three items, I'm going to demonstrate some other items that I've carried in my pocket for a survival kit, to include a good belt knife on the hip. Now for our everyday carry survival kit, for a cutting implement, you can't get much better than a multi-tool. The reason being, all the tools it provides us for a survival situation and everyday tasks. We have a serrated blade, a saw, can opener, we have the pliers themselves, we have a straight blade, we have a file, and then we also have an awl or a reamer to drill holes with. An army cravat can go in our pockets just as well, and we can conceal fishing kit and other items in that cravat for survival. Highly recommend a portable filter for water and survival, a wrist compass for land navigation and expedient orienteering, and then of course, parachute cord can go in our pockets. A small hank can be used easily enough, especially 11-strand paracord gives us that much more material, as well as survival cord with wire, fishing line, and jute twine for tinder. Our escape and evasion and survival kit is small, concealed. We can put it in our clothing or on our person. It consists of handcuff keys, bobby pins, and hair barrettes for picking and shimming locks or handcuffs, as well as a small fire starting kit, which consists of a razor blade, a ferro rod, and then waterproof tinder concealed inside a straw small enough to fit in our clothing. We can simply take the tape off of our razor blade, which is ceramic, meaning that it won't give off detection in a metal detector, or it won't be picked up by a metal detector. And then we have our small ferro rod, also wrapped in tape for waterproof. We can peel the tape off those two items, then take our razor blade and simply cut the straw open, pull out our tinder, which is cotton ball and Vaseline, set it up where we're going to have our survival fire, and then using that razor blade as a striker and our small ferro rod, ignite that cotton and Vaseline to give us long-lasting emergency tinder to get a fire going once we've escaped whatever isolating event we may have been a part of, and that way we can get a fire going to provide for our most basic survival needs. Now, there are a lot of items we can carry with fire. We don't have to carry all of these items, but these items are typically found in my pockets or what I use out in the field. The first one being that headlamp for obviously seeing in the dark for land navigation and operations, but we can take that with some steel wool exposed to batteries, touch the steel wool, and we've got flame. For everyday carry, we can obviously go with a small ferro rod like this Scout ferro rod, and you use it to get emergency fires going in a survival scenario. It takes up very little space in the pocket. One thing we can do with this ferro rod, something we've also carried, are small field dressings in our pockets to treat injuries. We can take that field dressing, because it is made of 100% cotton material, cut open the liner, pull out as much cotton material as we need, and because we have our Camo Compact with us, that camo face paint is made of paraffin wax and other materials that are flammable. We can take that cotton, apply some camo face paint for flame extender, googe it together, and then simply place it where we want to light our fire, use that ferro rod, ignite it, and we've got flame. Lighter should be our first fire tool in our pocket so we can carry with us every day. We can take that lighter, wrap some tape around it, and we've got a ready-made tinder source or flame extender right there. Peel off a little bit of that tape, roll it up, take our lighter, light the tape, and now we've transferred that flame to the tape itself from the lighter, and we have a flame extender for survival fire. Of course, as long as we have a good cutting tool, like our fixed blade Mora knife or our multi-tool, like the Leatherman rebar, we can simply find the materials if we have the skill set and technique to craft a bow drill primitive fire set. We can use our shoelaces or our 550 cord in our pocket and construct that primitive bow drill set to get an ember going, burning that spindle into that hearth. Once we have it burning and it's smoking by itself, we apply that to a tinder bundle, blow it into flame, and we have our fire. With military survival everyday carry, what I've found is that we have obviously large pockets and we wear clothing that affords us the opportunity to cross-load survival items within our clothing. So we have since progressed away from small survival bags for water collection, much like the Whirlpack bag or even a condom that is non-lubricated. We can use a small portable hand filter like the Sawyer Mini with a straw made of surgical tubing to drink from a water source, or even attach it to a bottle we can find to collect water and drink while on the move. Now let's talk shelter. For our everyday carry military survival kit, we'll often get small Mylar blankets. We started getting those back in the day to treat casualties in the field because exsanguination or severe blood loss is the number one cause of all battlefield fatalities. Part of that is with blood loss, you lose control of your body temperature. You can go into hypothermia even out in the desert. And so we have those blankets with us. But if we don't have that, or we want to improvise and not use that Mylar blanket and save it for a real emergency, we can simply create a simple debris shelter using deadfall in the area to construct a frame in a nice piece of terrain, construct our roof made of deadfall across or over top of what will be our shelter, kick the leaves together over our shelter or grab our shamak to collect those leaves, dump them over top, and then make that shelter big enough for us and our equipment to stay warm and get out of the rain during the night for survival. Now, food is last on our survival priority list. Reason being is that it could take a long time and a lot of energy expenditure to go after game or go after wild edibles, or we could put a hurt on ourselves and eat something that we misidentified out in the field and cause more pain to ourselves. And especially in a military survival scenario, we're going to go for food last because our survival priorities dictate that we need to be rescued. But one thing we can do is pick up food as we go. One of the things that is plentiful in this area right now are white oak acorns. We can process those down, removing the shell, and get them ready for cooking. Now, these acorns, as they sit, are not safe for us to consume. The reason being is that there are tannins in these acorns that can make us sick in very high quantities. In fact, they are toxic to dogs and horses, but in high quantities, it can make us very sick and turn our survival scenario into a very catastrophic scenario if we get sick out in the field. So what we need to do is remove the tannins from these acorns to make them safe to eat. To remove these tannins, we're going to use a Native American technique, but we're going to use still water as opposed to moving water. Native Americans would take the acorn meat, put it in a basket, place it submerged in fast-flowing water to remove the tannins and leave it there for a while. But if we don't have moving water and we just have this pond, we can place our acorns in our cravat, launch it out into the water, and leave it for 24 hours plus to remove those tannins and help leash the tannins out of those nuts. Remove the acorns from the water, and then to test using this primitive technique, we taste a little bit of the acorn to see if there's any bitterness. If there isn't any, our acorns are good to go. To better illustrate the process of leaching these acorns to make them safe to eat for human consumption, and using this primitive technique of soaking the acorns in a body of water for an extended period of time for a survival technique, we're going to use our bush pot and stove to illustrate or demonstrate the leaching process using the boiling method. We can take our bush pot, add our acorns to the pot, fill it with water. We can fill as much water as we want for this process. We light our stove, place the bush pot over top of that stove, and bring that water to a boil. As we boil the water, we will begin to see the tannins leach out of the acorns. Using this technique, we have to continuously change out the water until the water comes out clear after a final boil, meaning that all the tannins are removed. Once we're done with the leaching process, we can dry these acorns out in the sun or roast them next to a fire, but what we're left with is a high-calorie energy food source, 144 calories per ounce serving, along with protein, fats, carbohydrates, and vitamins. Everything a growing survivalist needs. If the situation dictates and we have the available tools, the available material, we can begin constructing passive traps to go hunting after small game. Small game that we can catch in these traps can be used for food or for bait for larger traps or for hunting. One of the best traps we can use, or a simple trap that we can construct, is just a Paiute Deadfall. The Paiute Deadfall is similar to a figure 4 deadfall trap, only in this case we are using cordage as a mechanism attached to a trigger pin around our post, locked in with a bait stick against our deadfall to act as the entire trigger mechanism itself instead of a series of notches as in the figure 4 deadfall trap. With the Paiute Deadfall, we simply carve our post with a square notch in the back. That is my technique that I like to use. And then we have just a sloping wedge at the top for our lever stick, which is going to go across the top of our post. We have a saddle notch to lock into the wedge, and then around the back we have just a simple beaver chew to tie in our cordage, and then at the front we have simply just shaved away the top portion to allow the deadfall to sit freely on top of the trap mechanism itself. The cordage is then attached to our trigger pin that we've saved for last, a simple rectangle shape, very thin, wrapped around and locked into our square notch to be affixed in place with our bait stick against our deadfall, baited and then set, ready for our game. Locking in a Paiute Deadfall trap takes a little bit of time. I've found that working with a square notch on the back side of the post and the trigger pin formed as a very thin rectangle helps to establish this trap and make it a little bit easier to set up. Signaling is a very important priority in survival. Signaling is actually going to be one of the first priorities of survival for military personnel in an isolating event. Getting signals out to alert search and rescue or friendly or allied forces in the area to attempt rescue sooner rather than later to avoid being captured or detained. That way we can make our way back to friendly lines, reintegrate back into forces, and then continue our operation. But within our signaling kit, as far as everyday carry, we can have items in our pockets to help alert search and rescue. Things like a Mylar blanket that is bright orange on one side, green on the other, we can use as a panel. We can use our aviator panel. Is just a fabric that we can place in our pocket, collapses very quickly. Orange, pull it out of our pocket and alert search and rescue very, very quickly. We have our headlamps, an emergency headlamp with all the same functions as a larger headlamp, just smaller. We can camouflage the case with spray paint, keep it in our pockets, and use that during hours of limited visibility, along with our regular headlamp if it has all the same settings, a bright light, red light, and then strobe settings to alert search and rescue. And then we also have signaling mirrors, just a normal signaling mirror, pilot survival mirror, or we can use the mirror from our Camo Compact with the sun's rays to flash and alert search and rescue. We have our whistle, and then we have any other means available improvised to alert, search, and rescue in a survival situation. Now, for medical aid or wilderness first aid, remote first aid, it's important to understand improvisation and being able to treat not only another person who may become a casualty, but also ourselves. A technique that we can use to stop severe bleeding is by creating a hasty or improvisational tourniquet using our cravat and some of our 550 cord. We can take that cravat, roll it up, it will act as the tourniquet, tie it high and tight above the injury, one overhand knot, and then take our stick or our windlass, place it over the knot, and then tie a non-slip knot over that. Rotate the stick until the bleeding is stopped and the tourniquet is in effect. And then we can use our 550 cord and secure the windlass to prevent it from escaping and releasing that tourniquet effect on the casualty, thus saving his life. Alright guys, that does it for this video. Military Everyday Carry Survival Kit are the things we can put in our pockets, and we can vary these items or loadouts for our specific purposes going out to the field. But I hope you liked this video. If you did like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment in the comment section. I always appreciate your feedback. I want to thank you guys for everything you do for me, for this channel, for your likes, your views, your subscriptions, your comments, your feedback, and your shares, and I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.